Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today to speak of love, not the love that is often sung about in fleeting ballads or written about in stormy verses of youthful desire, but the kind of love that transcends the temporary and becomes a guiding force in our lives. This is the kind of love that we can truly understand through the lens of Stoic philosophy. In the pursuit of love, we often find ourselves entranced by emotions and attachments that feel powerful, almost overwhelming. The world around us tends to glorify the kind of love that is possessive, exclusive, and even conditional, often depicted as a force so strong it consumes the lovers, like a fire that burns brighter with each passing moment. But Stoicism offers us a radically different perspective on love, one that encourages us to look beyond these temporary and external factors and instead see love as something deeper, more enduring, and less bound to the whims of fortune. According to Stoic philosophy, love, when truly understood, is not about attachment in the way that we traditionally think of it. In the Stoic view, attachment refers to a kind of emotional dependency, a need for the other person that comes from a belief that your happiness, your peace, or your sense of fulfillment is tied to them. But this is a dangerous belief to hold because it places your inner peace in the hands of something outside of your control, something impermanent, unpredictable, and prone to change. When you attach yourself to someone in this way, you are setting yourself up for potential suffering because the other person is as susceptible to life's changes as you are. They may change, they may drift away, or they may simply not meet your expectations in the long run. The Stoic sage, however, seeks to find love not in attachment, but in virtue. For them, love is not about possessing or controlling another person, but about recognizing and honoring their inherent dignity as a fellow human being. True love, according to Stoicism, is rooted in the acceptance that the other person is their own sovereign being, free to choose their own path. It is a love that respects the autonomy and individuality of the person you care for, rather than seeking to mold them into something you desire. In this framework, love becomes an act of mutual respect for the other person's ability to shape their own life and make their own choices. And love is not something that you own or hold on to with desperation. It is something you share freely, without expectations, conditions, or attachments. The Stoic idea of love involves recognizing that all things, including people, are transient, and therefore our attachment to them should not be excessive. When we understand that nothing in this world is guaranteed, we can love in a way that is grounded in the present moment, rather than clinging to the past or yearning for an idealized future. This is not to say that the Stoic would not care deeply for another person. On the contrary, Stoicism encourages deep connections, but these connections are grounded in shared values and mutual growth. Love, from this perspective, becomes a partnership of equals, each individual growing and thriving not because of the other person's influence, but alongside them as part of the same natural order. Love becomes less about dependency and more about complementing one another's journey. In the Stoic sense, love should be seen as something that nurtures both people's character, not something that is contingent on external rewards or fleeting pleasures. This love does not demand constant affirmation, nor does it seek to possess the other. It is the kind of love that allows freedom to grow, to change, to be imperfect. And in this freedom, both individuals are able to love each other not as they wish the other person to be, but as they truly are in all their complexity. Ultimately, the Stoic approach to love suggests that our love for others should come from a place of inner peace, not from the desire to complete or save someone else. The kind of love Stoicism encourages is one where we recognize that love, when rooted in virtue and understanding, is an essential part of a well-lived life. It is a love that grows out of wisdom, temperance, and self-control, rather than the fleeting whims of passion or possession. When we love in this way, we are not dependent on the other person for our happiness. Instead, we love them freely and fully, appreciating the beauty of who they are, without needing them to be something they are not. This is the kind of love that allows us to experience deep connection without being tethered to attachment. And it is the love that, in the end, leads to true fulfillment and peace. When we speak of love, it is easy to become swept away by the intense, passionate feelings that often accompany romantic attraction, the heart-racing excitement, the longing, the emotional highs and lows that seem to define the early stages of love. These are the kinds of feelings that are often immortalized in music, poetry, and literature. However, from a Stoic perspective, love rooted solely in passion can be seen as unstable, something that can easily burn bright only to fade away when the initial thrill dissipates. While passion is not inherently bad, the Stoics caution against letting it be the defining characteristic of our love, for passion is fleeting and changeable, often dependent on external circumstances that lie beyond our control. True love, according to Stoic thought, is not based on the volatility of passion, but on the steadiness of virtue. It is grounded in reason, self-control, and the understanding that love, to endure and truly flourish, must transcend the ephemeral nature of emotional highs and lows. Stoicism teaches us that emotions, including passion, can be overwhelming and distracting, and if we allow them to govern our actions and thoughts, we risk losing our inner balance. To be ruled by passion is to be at the mercy of external events. One day we feel elated because of a tender moment shared with a partner, and the next we feel devastated because of a perceived slight or misunderstanding. This cycle, although it may be exhilarating, is not conducive to a stable, enduring relationship. The Stoic approach to love encourages us to cultivate a love that is grounded in mutual respect, shared values, and understanding, one that does not rely on the transitory nature of passion, but instead on the constancy of virtue. Such love is not dictated by fleeting desires or superficial attractions. It is a love that develops slowly over time through shared experiences and deep emotional connection, rather than by a sudden, overwhelming infatuation. In a relationship founded on virtue, each person works to grow in wisdom and character, not merely to please the other or satisfy their own desires, but to become better people. This process of mutual growth allows love to deepen and become more meaningful beyond the rush of passion. At the heart of a love based on virtue is the idea that love is a conscious choice, not a mere reaction to physical or emotional stimuli. When we choose to love in a virtuous way, we are choosing to build a relationship that is grounded in the deeper qualities of respect, kindness, and understanding. This kind of love encourages each individual to act in ways that are aligned with their highest principles. Instead of acting out of desire or impulsive feelings, we act with consideration, empathy, and patience, recognizing that true love requires effort, compromise, and the willingness to grow together. In practical terms, this means that love based on virtue does not rely on the momentary rush of passion, but instead finds its fulfillment in shared values and goals. It is a love that seeks to understand the other person not just in their idealized form, but in their flaws and imperfections. In a relationship rooted in virtue, both individuals recognize that they will face difficulties and disagreements, but their love will not be shaken by these challenges. Instead, they approach conflicts with the understanding that they are opportunities for growth, both as individuals and as a couple. This kind of love recognizes that imperfections are part of what it means to be human, and it is through the acceptance of each other's faults and strengths that the relationship becomes stronger. Love based on passion, on the other hand, can often be self-centered. It may involve trying to mold the other person into a version of themselves that fulfills personal desires or needs, rather than accepting them as they are. In contrast, Stoic love seeks to elevate the other person, not through idealization or fantasy, but through the recognition of their full humanity. This love is not fleeting. It is enduring because it is built on the firm foundation of mutual respect, shared wisdom, and a commitment to each other's well-being and growth. In the end, the Stoic approach to love reminds us that while passion may bring us together, it is the steadiness of virtue that will sustain us. The kind of love that endures, the kind that we should seek to write songs about, is not one that is dictated by emotions that rise and fall with the tide, but one that remains steady, grounded, and unwavering, even in the face of life's inevitable challenges. In a world where we often find ourselves looking ahead, whether to the next milestone in a relationship or to an idealized version of what love should be, the Stoic philosophy invites us to consider love as something that exists in the present, not in some distant future or unattainable fantasy. We are conditioned, especially in romantic contexts, to think of love as something that will be perfect once certain conditions are met, once we find the right person, once the timing is right, once everything falls into place. We are told to look for that perfect moment when everything aligns and love becomes a seamless, effortless experience. But Stoicism teaches us that the true essence of love lies in accepting and appreciating what is, right here, right now, rather than waiting for some ideal moment to arrive. To love in the Stoic way is to fully embrace the person you are with as they are in the present moment, without trying to mold them into an idealized version of what you think they should be. It is to let go of the fantasy of perfection and instead to accept and celebrate the person's strengths and flaws alike. The Stoic approach encourages us to focus on what we have, not what we lack, and to find beauty in the reality of the relationship rather than in the imagined possibilities of a future love that may never come. Love, in this sense, is about deep presence, being fully engaged with the person before us without needing to control the outcome or shape them into something they are not. One of the most profound lessons in Stoic thought is that we cannot control external events, and in the same vein, we cannot control the future of our relationships. The future is, by nature, uncertain, and love is no exception. By attaching ourselves to a future outcome, a perfect relationship, an ideal love story, we set ourselves up for disappointment because we cannot predict the course of life. The Stoic teaches us to relinquish this illusion of control and to appreciate the love that exists in the present, knowing that the future is unknowable and often outside of our influence. Instead of focusing on what could be, Stoicism urges us to embrace the love that exists in the here and now and to let go of the attachment to future outcomes. This is not to say that the Stoic rejects the idea of planning or building a future with a partner. Rather, it means recognizing that our happiness should not be dependent on what we imagine might happen, but on the relationship we are nurturing in the present moment. The Stoic believes that each moment offers an opportunity for growth, connection, and joy. When we stop focusing on an idealized future and instead appreciate what we have in front of us, love becomes a much richer, deeper experience. This mindset also encourages us to be less possessive and controlling in our relationships. If we are constantly fixated on the future and how we want our partner to behave or change, we miss the richness of the present relationship. True love, in the Stoic sense, is about accepting your partner as they are, understanding that they too are part of a larger, ever-changing world. We cannot control who they become, but we can love them as they are in this moment. This acceptance creates space for genuine connection and mutual respect, as it does not come with the expectations that the other person must conform to an ideal or fulfill a specific role in our lives. In focusing on the present, we also develop a deeper sense of gratitude for what is, rather than constantly striving for something more or better. How often do we find ourselves distracted by the thought of what's next? Whether it's the next stage of the relationship or an imagined version of how things should look, the Stoics remind us that this constant striving is at odds with tranquility and contentment. By focusing on the present moment, we can appreciate the person we love as they are, for who they are right now. This presence creates a bond that is stronger than any idealized vision of love. Love, then, becomes an experience we savor in the present. It is not something to chase after in the future or regret from the past. The Stoic perspective invites us to live fully in the relationship as it exists, to love without conditions or expectations, and to appreciate the connection we have with our partner in its most authentic form. In this way, love becomes not a pursuit or a destination but a journey that, when lived fully in the moment, reveals its deepest richness and meaning. In embracing love in the present, we also develop the wisdom to let go of the need to control or perfect it. We begin to see that love is not about fitting a preconceived mold or meeting a set of external standards. It is, instead, about embracing the person before us as they are in the present moment. When we do this, we find that love becomes less about achieving some future ideal and more about appreciating the beauty of the journey itself. This is the kind of love that Stoicism encourages, a love that is grounded in the here and now, a love that transcends the fleeting emotions of passion and anchors itself in the steady embrace of the present moment. In Stoic philosophy, virtue is not merely an abstract ideal. It is the cornerstone of a meaningful and well-lived life. The Stoics taught that living in accordance with virtue, exemplified through wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, leads to tranquility and fulfillment regardless of external circumstances. When it comes to love, virtue is just as essential. The Stoic view of love places greater emphasis on the cultivation of virtue within the relationship rather than the fleeting emotions or external conditions that often define popular notions of romantic love. At its core, a love founded on virtue is one where both individuals commit to fostering their own moral growth and to supporting each other in their personal journeys toward becoming better people. It is not the love based on instant gratification or surface-level attractions. It is the love that stands the test of time because it is grounded in shared values, mutual respect, and a common pursuit of moral excellence. In this sense, Stoic love is not simply about the emotions we feel in the moment, but about how those emotions and actions align with virtue, how our love helps us grow in wisdom and understanding, how it encourages us to become more just, courageous, and temperate individuals. A love rooted in virtue is inherently more resilient because it is not based on external conditions that are beyond our control. External circumstances, such as physical attraction or material success, are fleeting. The emotions that come with passion, for example, are often intense and all-consuming, but they can be fragile depending on the course of time and changes in life's unpredictable nature. On the other hand, virtue is constant. Wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance do not fluctuate based on the weather of life or the passing whims of passion. These virtues offer a stable foundation on which a loving relationship can endure, even through hardships. For the Stoic, love is not a transaction or a temporary affair based on how the other person makes us feel. It is a relationship where both partners actively seek to enhance each other's growth in virtue. It is about supporting the other person's moral development, offering encouragement when they struggle, and holding them accountable when they stray. This does not mean controlling or trying to shape them into an image of perfection. Rather, it is about fostering an environment where both individuals feel empowered to become the best versions of themselves. Through this shared commitment to virtue, both people are uplifted not only as romantic partners, but also as individuals. When love is grounded in virtue, it is no longer about meeting external expectations or romantic ideals, but about a shared sense of responsibility toward each other's moral and emotional well-being. This dynamic creates a relationship that is strong enough to weather the inevitable difficulties and challenges that life presents. In the face of conflict or hardship, virtue provides a framework for resolution that focuses on respect, fairness, and understanding, rather than reacting impulsively or out of ego. When disagreements arise, the love rooted in virtue is marked by efforts to resolve conflict in a way that upholds the dignity and integrity of both individuals. Furthermore, the Stoic emphasis on virtue in love also means that each partner strives to practice self-control, moderation, and fairness, not just within the relationship, but in all aspects of life. Love, in this context, becomes a tool for self-mastery. Rather than letting the passion of the moment dictate our actions, we aim to live with purpose, guided by reason, and the understanding that true love does not demand selfish satisfaction, but seeks mutual benefit. This means that in a virtuous relationship, we are not driven by possessiveness or control, but by an ongoing desire to act in ways that are just, wise, and compassionate. A relationship based on virtue also recognizes that love is not static. Just as virtue requires constant practice and growth, so does love. Both partners must continually strive to improve themselves and to nurture the relationship. Love, when founded on virtue, is not a one-time achievement, but an ongoing journey, one that deepens and strengthens as both individuals continue to evolve. The Stoic understanding of love teaches us that the most enduring and fulfilling relationships are those where both individuals are committed to growing, learning, and becoming better people together. In essence, love rooted in virtue transcends the idealization of a perfect romantic scenario. It is not contingent on external beauty or romantic gestures. It is built on the shared commitment to becoming better individuals and partners. Such love offers both the individuals involved the strength to face life's challenges together, to grow through difficulties, and to appreciate the deep, lasting connection that can only come from mutual respect and shared wisdom. It is the kind of love that does not fade with the passage of time because it is based on principles that endure, and it is the kind of love that Stoicism teaches us to strive for. In any long-term relationship, challenges are inevitable. Life, with all its unpredictability, inevitably presents moments of difficulty, and relationships are no exception. The Stoic view on love does not idealize a perfect, trouble-free partnership. Instead, it teaches us to understand and embrace the reality that adversity is a natural part of life, and in turn, a natural part of love. Stoic philosophy suggests that it is not the absence of hardship that defines a strong and meaningful relationship, but how we respond to those challenges. In fact, adversity can be a powerful catalyst for growth, both individually and as a couple, if we approach it with wisdom, patience, and virtue. Love that is grounded in Stoic principles does not shy away from difficulty. Rather, it faces hardship head-on with resilience and emotional fortitude. This approach requires recognizing that both external circumstances and the people involved in a relationship are subject to change. People will face setbacks, they will make mistakes, and they will sometimes hurt each other. However, love in the Stoic sense is about cultivating the inner strength to meet these trials without allowing them to destroy the foundation of the relationship. It is about accepting that suffering, loss, and pain are an inherent part of the human experience, and that they are just as much a part of love as the moments of joy, passion, and connection. The Stoics teach that our emotional responses to external events, including conflicts within our relationships, are not determined by the events themselves, but by how we choose to interpret and react to them. This means that even in times of disagreement, misunderstanding, or distress, we have the power to choose how we respond. A Stoic approach to love encourages us to pause, reflect, and act with reason rather than letting reactive emotions take control. This doesn't mean suppressing our emotions or pretending that we aren't hurt or upset. Rather, it means accepting those emotions with clarity and choosing how to respond in a way that is aligned with our highest values. In moments of difficulty, we are called to act with patience, empathy, and understanding, rather than reacting impulsively out of anger or frustration. This mindset creates a love that is steady, grounded, and unshaken by the storms of life. In a relationship where both partners embrace this Stoic ideal, challenges are not seen as threats to the relationship, but as opportunities for both individuals to practice virtue. For example, in times of conflict, instead of allowing anger or resentment to fester, both individuals might choose to approach the situation with humility, acknowledging their own faults and being open to the possibility of growth and reconciliation. By maintaining a sense of calm and understanding, love in this context becomes a force that transcends the immediate discomforts and remains rooted in mutual respect and commitment. Moreover, a Stoic view of love acknowledges that we cannot control the actions or emotions of others, but we can control our own. This is particularly relevant when facing difficulties in a relationship. If one partner is going through a tough time or behaving in a way that causes friction, a Stoic approach teaches us not to react with judgment or frustration, but to respond with compassion and understanding. It encourages us to remember that the other person is also subject to life's hardships, and that their behavior is often a reflection of their own struggles. By responding with empathy rather than defensiveness, we create a space for mutual healing and understanding rather than further escalation. The strength of a relationship rooted in Stoic love lies in the resilience of both partners. When love is based on virtue, it is less likely to be shaken by the ups and downs of life, because it is anchored in something deeper and more enduring than temporary emotions or external circumstances. This doesn't mean that the relationship will be free from pain or conflict. It simply means that when those challenges arise, both individuals are better equipped to face them together. By focusing on mutual growth and supporting each other through difficulties, love becomes a transformative force that strengthens the bond between partners rather than weakening it. Furthermore, the Stoic perspective on love teaches us the value of acceptance and non-attachment. When we accept that difficulties will arise, we are better able to navigate them with grace. We are not devastated by setbacks because we do not expect life to always be smooth. This acceptance doesn't lead to complacency or indifference. Rather, it allows us to engage with life and love more fully, without the burden of unrealistic expectations. It helps us cultivate a relationship that is flexible, adaptable, and resilient in the face of adversity. In the end, the Stoic approach to love reminds us that hardship is not a sign that love has failed, but rather an opportunity for both individuals to prove their commitment, deepen their connection, and strengthen their bond. True love, as the Stoics see it, is not about avoiding difficulty, but about rising to meet it with patience, understanding, and wisdom. It is love that endures through the hardest trials, not because the trials are absent, but because both partners approach them with the same steadfastness and virtue that they bring to their shared life. In a world that often associates love with intense emotions, possessiveness, and fleeting passions, Stoicism offers a refreshing and grounded approach to how we should love ourselves and others. Central to Stoic thought is the idea of self-mastery, the belief that true happiness and fulfillment come from understanding and controlling our own emotions, actions, and desires. The Stoic view of love challenges us to consider not only how we love others, but also how we love ourselves. This self-love is not about narcissism or self-centeredness, but about cultivating a deep sense of inner peace, wisdom, and self-respect, which then allows us to love others more fully and authentically. At its core, self-love in Stoic philosophy is about understanding our own worth and accepting ourselves as we are, without falling prey to the constant need for external validation or approval. It is a love that is rooted in self-awareness, where we are honest about our strengths and weaknesses, and yet are still able to show compassion and care for ourselves. The Stoics believe that we cannot offer genuine love to others if we do not first cultivate a deep and healthy love for ourselves, one that is not based on external appearances, achievements, or the opinions of others, but on the understanding that we are inherently valuable as human beings simply by virtue of being part of the rational order of the universe. Self-love in the Stoic sense also involves the acceptance of our imperfections. We are all human and we all have flaws, limitations, and weaknesses. A Stoic does not seek to deny or hide these imperfections, but rather to embrace them with understanding and self-compassion. True self-love is not about striving for perfection, but about striving to be the best version of ourselves, one who acts with wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. By focusing on our own growth and virtue, we learn to accept ourselves as we are, while still working to improve ourselves. When we love ourselves in this Stoic way, we are less likely to become overly dependent on others for our sense of worth. We no longer need others to constantly affirm our value or to fill emotional gaps that we have not yet addressed within ourselves. This self-sufficiency or self-contentment is not about isolation or detachment from others, but rather about recognizing that our happiness and peace do not depend on anyone else. It allows us to enter relationships with a sense of wholeness, rather than seeking someone else to complete us. We love not because we need someone else to fill an empty space within, but because we genuinely care for them and wish to share our lives together. This idea of self-love also extends to how we approach the imperfections and flaws of others. When we learn to accept ourselves fully, we become more capable of accepting others in their entirety, flaws and all. We are less likely to project unrealistic expectations onto our partners or to be disappointed when they do not meet these idealized standards. Instead, we learn to love them for who they truly are, not for who we want them to be. This acceptance fosters a deeper, more authentic connection, where both partners can grow together without fear of judgment or rejection. In the Stoic view, Love also teaches us the importance of maintaining our emotional stability. We are encouraged to avoid being ruled by the whims of external circumstances, whether it's the approval of others, the transient highs of romantic passion, or the setbacks and difficulties we inevitably face. True self-love involves cultivating inner peace that is not easily disturbed by the fluctuations of life. This emotional resilience, when extended to relationships, allows us to love others in a way that is steady, grounded, and unaffected by temporary emotional storms. Rather than being swept up in the chaos of our own desires or the tumultuous emotions that can arise in relationships, we learn to remain calm, balanced, and rational, even in the face of conflict or uncertainty. Ultimately, the Stoic approach to self-love teaches us that by cultivating a deep and lasting sense of inner peace and self-acceptance, we are better equipped to give and receive love in a way that is genuine, free of expectations, and grounded in virtue. We become more compassionate toward ourselves, which then enables us to be more compassionate toward others. When we are no longer dependent on others for our sense of self-worth, we can engage in relationships that are not motivated by need or desire for validation, but by a genuine desire to connect, grow, and support each other. This form of love is liberating because it frees us from the shackles of insecurity and dependency, allowing us to love fully, freely, and authentically. It is a love that is grounded in the wisdom of self-awareness and self-respect, and it is the kind of love that not only nurtures our own well-being, but also deepens our relationships with others. In conclusion, the kind of love that we often see celebrated in songs and stories is often a love defined by intense emotion, passion, and the desire for external validation. While these elements may have their place, the Stoic perspective on love teaches us that the most enduring and meaningful love is grounded not in fleeting emotions or external circumstances, but in virtue, reason, and a deep commitment to mutual growth. True love, according to Stoicism, is a love that values wisdom, self-control, and the recognition that our happiness does not depend on the perfection of the other person, but on the cultivation of our own inner strength and virtue. It is a love that embraces both the joys and challenges of life with resilience and grace, accepting that adversity is a natural part of the human experience. Stoic love encourages us to be fully present with the people we love, to accept them as they are, and to grow together in wisdom and character. It is a love that does not shy away from difficulty, but faces it with patience, understanding, and a commitment to virtuous living. It teaches us that self-love is a necessary foundation, one that fosters inner peace and emotional resilience, which in turn allows us to give and receive love in its truest form. Ultimately, the kind of love we should seek is not one that is based on temporary feelings or idealized fantasies, but one that is built on a solid foundation of shared values, mutual respect, and a common pursuit of becoming better individuals. This kind of love endures not because it is free of challenges, but because it is grounded in the understanding that love is not about possession or control, but about growth, acceptance, and the continuous journey of becoming the best versions of ourselves together. This, I believe, is the love that we should strive for, the kind of love worthy of being celebrated, not just in songs, but in our everyday lives.